You executive produced this, and you also pushed for you have to get a female director as well as inclusion of diversity with the cast. So it looks like this movie is going to kind of challenge and kind of reframe sisterhood beyond the borderlines of color. Mm-hmm. What's that one takeaway that you want from women from this movie and the story that you're telling here?
I guess, I mean, when I first pitched the idea, it was really because in everyday life I am always surrounded by a group of women, and whether that's like friendship groups or people I strive to work with, it was crazy to me that I hadn't really gotten to be a part of the female ensemble on screen, and I felt that Harley would really I thought you would get to see the best sides of Harley's personality in kind of like a group of girls as well. And then we kind of pieced together a group that does feel like a very eclectic mix of ages and backgrounds, and, you know, even down to the fact that you've got a cop in the group, but then you've got someone, you know, like Harley, who's a complete anarchist. Everyone's kind of can offer something different to the scenes. I thought that would be both, you know, a fun thing to dramatize on screen, but also an opportunity for people who do, like, I guess a lot of audience members who are like, I have a girl gang in real life, I kind of want to see one represented on screen.
When did you know you wanted to take this character and make it your own? Was it during Suicide Squad's script, or was it reading the comics? When was that moment you said, this is me, I want to do this, and I want to take this character?
I mean, I was so excited to play her from the very beginning. And the more I kind of read the comics and the more I got to play her in real life during Suicide Squad, the more I just fell in love with her. And there was such, obviously, limited segments on screen to really showcase other elements of Harley's personality in the first Suicide Squad. So it's been amazing on this film because I just have more screen time, really. And seeing, I think what's different about this film is that you see Harley in her element, like you get to see Harley's apartment. What does her house look like? What does she wear when she gets to pick her outfit, as opposed to, you know, in Suicide Squad there was a box there to choose from and she wore her mission outfit. Now what does she wear when she goes to get drunk at night? How does she deal with a hangover? Whatever it is, you get to kind of like see these other sides to Harley, a more personal side.
Go ahead. So with Harley Quinn, like, we talked to the producer and he said it's a gray area. Because in Suicide Squad, she's kind of like a hero, but a villain. You know, in general, she's a villain. How would you see yourself? Do you see yourself as an anti-hero in this film, or do you see yourself as a hero or a villain, or where do you see yourself in?
I think anti-hero is probably like a easy way to classify. I don't think she's evil, but I don't think she's good either. I think she's, you know, she's a baddie with her own set of rules that she follows. So her moral compass points a very different way to someone else's, but she does have a moral compass. She does have a feeling of what is right and wrong. It's just she places her priorities in a very different order to some other people.
So Harley's going to be a little different now that she's not with the Joker and that she's fully herself. How much self-analysis has Harley done, especially considering her past profession?
Yes, I think it's like one of those things, I guess, like it's easier to give people advice than work it through, like for yourself. I think it's a similar thing where she's truly just a mess. She's a total mess after the breakup. And despite her, you know, background and knowledge of, you know, the human condition, I feel like she's just really struggling to figure it out for herself. So yeah, you definitely see, you definitely see the different stages post breakup, and yeah, it's pretty messy.
With that said, this is a twofer. Yeah. What surprised you most about Harley when you first read this? And what's your favorite snack in her apartment? Because there are lots.
The second one's the easiest to answer because my head just goes to food immediately. Fruit Loops are like one of my favorite. Like when I first moved out of home and I wasn't allowed Fruit Loops. Are they called Fruit Loops in America? Yeah. I wasn't allowed them growing up, and then I moved out of home when I was like 17, and I lived on nothing but Fruit Loops. But probably the first 3 months, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner was just Fruit Loops because I was so excited to be able to eat them. I'm still not sick of them, so I did say, like, can we? Also, there's like an image in a comic I read where she is sitting. I think she's actually with Poison Ivy, not. Anyways, but there's an image of her watching cartoons and eating cereal. So there's a couple of like images from the comics that I've always like really stuck with me, and I've, you know, spoke to Christina and I really enjoyed this moment. Like there's a couple of key moments I've seen in images, and that was one of them, her eating cereal. serial watching cartoons, so we have a scene like that with Cass. So yes, definitely my favorite. And what was the first one?
What surprised you most about her reading the script?
Well, not specifically reading the script because I was on the project before the script was written, sort of thing. So that kind of came together. I guess what's always surprised me most, or the thing that I said this when we were, publicizing Suicide Squad, the first film, is her relationship with Joker always did confuse me the most. That was the thing that took me the longest to get my head around. In this film, though, we're exploring her not being the Joker, and I actually understand the breakup. That's something I feel like everyone can kind of understand and relate to in some ways. Though she deals with it, like she blows things up. Like I don't. I understand the motivation that spurred on that train of thought.
Especially as a producer, what do you expect the audience response of this film? What do you expect of them? How can you watch it?
I don't know, to be honest. It's always so different, when you make a film. When like Brian and I made Tonya, and I just did not know how people were going to react to it. All you can do is really find the truth in the story that you are telling and tell it to the best of your ability, I suppose, and then explore it and trying to explore it in an unbiased way. I feel like if you keep trying to cater to the audience too much, ultimately disappoint them. So it's tricky with something like this where there is already a fan base and there's already people you want to please so badly. It's hard to not try and play for the laughs or play for the spectacle, but really find the truth in the situation. So yeah, I guess you just have to check yourself every so often and make sure that we're just telling an honest story, even though it is spectacular and funny and this and that. I feel like that can't be the root of your intention.
Just a couple more and then they'll make yours.
Could you talk about the dynamic of the team? The Harleys are one extreme. What about the other characters who fall more in the middle?
Like I mentioned before, I feel like everyone has their own set of ethics, and everyone's moral compass does definitely veer in different ways, which makes it interesting. It isn't until later in the film where we all kind of coalesce, but you've got Renee Montoya, who is a cop, obviously, and does truly want to. Do you know what everyone has in common? They're all from Gotham, this part of Gotham. We're exploring the side of the outskirts of Gotham, as opposed to that. If Gotham is New York, we're not in Manhattan. We're in Queens or Brooklyn or whatever. But they're all from here. It's that feeling. It is kind of contained in a way that there is a small community and everyone's in it, and everyone kind of has their roots in this part of town, and therefore want to fight for it. So I think that's what they have in common, whether they place priority on upholding the law the way Renee Montoya might, or Canary, again, different. Huntress is kind of more of an outsider coming back in, and Harley, it's all. For them, it's home for them, and they're fighting for their community in some ways, I suppose. In a very weird way.
I have a follow-up, if you don't mind, on that question is, first of all, you're wearing my dream ring, all the way in your right hand. That's
this one?
That's actually I want this ring doubled into a knuckle ring.
Oh, no way! I know, it's kind of like jewelry, weaponry.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But my actual question is in the real life cast, I think part of the fun of Suicide Squad when it was coming out was the camaraderie, the squad. How is it different, same, more intense, less intense? Are you tattooing people on the set this time around? How is it so far?
Tattoo gun away. That's some interesting discussions. I guess it's different in the fact that Suicide Squad, we got thrown together right at the beginning of the film. This, we kind of the group finds each other. So we've had less physical time as a group. The scenes that we're doing today is quite late in the film, and that's when we first all so we've all had these moments to spend time together individually in as our characters run into each other, but this is the first time we've been thrown together. There always is, though, on a film set. I feel that feeling of camaraderie is kind of, you find that quite quickly. You gravitate towards the group, the gang, quite quickly, and I'm sure by the time we've done 50 million junket days, that will be lifelong friends. So, but no, the group immediately got along.
Okay, 2 more questions, and then they can need her back on set.
Right. So there's been this trend that we've seen with a lot of these superhero movies where maybe 10, 20 years ago was all about the special effects and the action and the big
hunky star that gets people to think it is. Last few years with like Wonder Woman, Black Panther, movies like that, they've really been more like character driven and more about the story and not just about, you know, the powers of whoever the hero happens to be. In your case, you know, Harley's not flying across, you know, the universe and doing all that other stuff. So how do you think this role in this movie adds to that trend of a good action story, but also just like a really good story that people care about, that people like for just the story part of it?
Yeah, I think, you know, there are so many films coming out now that the bar has been lifted. You know, there's just too much competition. You can't really get by with just like a big explosion that's not going to satisfy people. Audiences are very smart, and audiences do have high expectations. So it's not enough just to say, here's like a really cool CG effect. Plus, I don't want to spend years of my life working on something if that's like all we're aiming to do, you know? Like, I also want to deliver something that has incredible plot and character work and, you know, the spectacle as well, but the design in all aspects, it's, you know, I strive to have that kind of all working at the highest level possible. So in this film in particular, it is very plot-driven in some ways because we have a non-linear storytelling structure and we jump around in time and therefore the plot actually is quite important. The character motivations are all quite simple and straightforward. We're all fighting for something pretty straightforward. But I think the DC world does offer quite an opportunity for character work anyway, because the characters are quite dark and often they have quite a dark past. So we do explore that in bits and pieces in this and kind of help find the characters' motivation, I suppose, through their backstories. But yeah, it is plot driven for sure. It is there's a lot of wonderful character moments. The design is beautiful. It does hopefully incorporate all those things audiences look for.
A lot of these comic book movies, or a lot of comic book movies in general, superhero stuff, it's often like the stakes are so high, the end of the world, that kind of thing. And this seems like it's gonna have a lot more personal.
It's more contained for sure.
From what we've seen so far. So I was hoping you could talk about making like a comic booky superhero-y movie, but without like the world ending.
No, I mean that was a big part. That was kind of like one of the, few criteria that I started off with when I first pitched it. I was like, I'm just so desensitized to seeing a world like a city being flattened. It doesn't like. I've seen it so many times on screen by this point, and VFX is so advanced at this point. Like it can't even shock me with the realism of it anymore. I just don't want to see. Stakes that big because I'm kind of numb to it, and I feel like if we had it a little more contained, I guess my initial pitch was, it should be no bigger than mafia level, sort of, or gang level. It should all exist in a very small, geographical vicinity, and the stakes should feel very personal and feel life or death, but not the life or death of thousands of people, just the people that we spent time with on screen, I suppose. So yeah, it's a far more contained version, but it doesn't really take away from the stakes. It still feels like, really, really important. But that was a huge part. I was just tired of seeing, giant billions of buildings falling down and stuff like that. So yeah.
So Margo, the group is going to meet Cathy next. Before you leave, do you want to make any mention of what Cathy's bringing to this?
I mean, Cathy, you'll hear from her. You'll see in 5 seconds how awesome and smart she is. And she's just, truthfully, she just came in and blew our minds with her pitch for the film and her understanding of what she was going to bring to it. Kind of automatically built off all the ideas that we were excited about. She came in and spoke about them in a way that was going to elevate them to a whole new level. And that's kind of like your dream scenario. Like you care about a project so much, you want someone to come in and understand it, and also feel as passionate about it as you do, and she did. She came in, and we were all like, "Oh my God, we found a person for this film." So, no, I had a good chat with her.
Well, I'm going to give her now, and I think they need you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Perfect. I need Cathy. Yeah. I'm doing a profile on her, so I'm like, wow. Oh yeah, later. For later. Oh yeah, later. For later. Oh yeah.